Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another episode of the Cavern today. Dalkin Starbine here, hosting your podcast this time. This month we bring you a cheery, little cast in which we discuss the ability of secondary developers carrying on a given franchise, the future of PC gaming, iRiven, and more. After that, we'll finish up with a piece by Jeff Wise, who wrote it for his very own wedding. So, without further ado, we present to you Episode 7 of The Cavern today.
Welcome to TCT Talk. Usually this is our round-table chatterbox about the goings-on in the Cavern, but because there haven't been many goings-on in the Cavern lately, this is probably going to be a little bit more an over-the-fence oriented talk today. So here with us today we have...
Janitas.
And me, Jeff Wise.
And also me, Morris. So let's get started. First on our agenda for today.
This is a point invented by me. I follow a couple of shooter game franchises, Fear 3 being one of them, Call of Duty Black Ops being the other. I noticed that both of these sequels, to these popular franchises, because, Fear 1 and Fear 2 were by Monolith, and I don't actually know the name of the company doing the third one. And Call of Duty Black Ops is by what we call the B team for Call of Duty. It's Treyarch, not actually Infinity Ward. These are being shepherded by developers who did not create the franchises. But, keeping with the Myst vibe, we've had Myst 3 and 4, and Cyan was involved but didn't develop it. So my question here is the original developer necessary to carry the torch for a franchise?
I'll start with this. Really, what it seems to boil down to is just on a case-by-case basis, who is the one who's shepherding the franchise in the first place. In the example you used, Call of Duty Black Ops, Treyarch has had some pedigree with shooters in the past. They made the excellent Call of Duty World at War, which kind of took some of the tech that they created for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 and kind of placed it back in World War II setting and added new fire tech that they were really proud of. And it was really great, while soldiers would scramble up like palm trees and stuff, and you just set it on fire with a flamethrower and then watch them burn and fall to the ground while you laughed maniacally.
Yeah, I noticed Black Ops also has flamethrowers in it.
Yes, they're very, very proud of that. I noticed there's lots of fire in Call of Duty Black Ops, so that's kind of like, that's the one thing we did better than Infinity Ward.
Well, but here's the thing, though. The Fear 1 was by Monolith, and Monolith has a very special place in my heart because they did No One Lives Forever, No One Lives Forever 2. But they have had some missed shots in there, like they did parts of No One Lives Forever 2, especially like they regurgitated the same map twice in the game. It's like, way to reuse assets and waste my time with the same map. And there's flip side, they did something called Contract Jack, which was them trying to pander to the Doom lot who wanted a fast-paced action shooter that didn't involve a lot of stealth and strategy. But when they did Fear, supposedly when they did Fear, that was the game that they wanted to do when they did Nulth, but they were contracted to do No One Lives Forever. But in the meantime, there was like expansion packs or standalone things, and other Fear games like Perseus Mandate. And I played the demo, and the demo told me not to buy that game. But then I got to Fear 2, and the first demo, I noticed it was very much made for the consoles. Like, the game felt more console-like. But later on, I was in the need of a violent shooter, and that's the one I went to, and, it actually ended up being very enjoyable. But now Fear 3 is looking like it's taken where the games had kind of a push and pull between action, in normal environments, which is what I like about games where you're playing in a world that's a little more grounded. But they had a little bit of the paranormals, a la like The Ring or I can't think, The Grudge, horror like that, where things kind of start and stop really quickly, the screen flashes really quickly, things like that. And Fear 3 looks like it's going to be pretty much the world has gone to crap and we're going to see it all face front all the time. But that's because the Fear 3 is by somebody else, So I kind of have this. I hope there's a demo so I can get a sense for whether I like it or not, because I'm too iffy to buy it. The same thing with Black Ops is I ended up buying it because my friends are playing it, not because I wanted it. And now that I own it, I'm kind of back to Modern Warfare 2. So, I'm not always a fan of, I don't believe that these franchises can be carried forward well by people in all cases. As Jeff was mentioning in our pre-show, Myst 3 was well done because the people that did it were, true blue adventure gamer company. Myst 4, I think, left a lot of people dry because, Moog made the point pretty clear that years ago that the solution to the puzzle, but now the problem is executing the solution. Whereas Myst tend to be, once you figure it out, you can just do it.
The majority of the TCT staff still hasn't finished Myst 4.
Oh, well... I mean, I was very sort of proud of myself for actually being able to get through it in like a reasonable span of time, actually. And I remember that because I would go back to the Myst forums and I would see people complaining, why is it? I'd be like, I didn't even use a help guide. You guys are...
What I always try to do.
I was so proud of myself.
The game had a help guide built into the interface of the game itself.
Yeah, but the problem I have with that game is it's not fun on replays to me.
If you're just staring at the environments, I find it is.
Yeah, what I tend to do because the puzzles are big roadblocks. So what I would do is I would make incremental saves. So I can, this is the save after I beat this puzzle. This is the save after this. The problem is they limited the amount of saves, so I had to be strategic with which ones I picked. But in any case, so that point is well met. I think that sometimes the franchise can actually have a good outing by another developer. And if you use sales as an indicator, Black Ops is more of a success than Modern Warfare 2. But I am not so sure that is telling as much as it's just a sheeple thing.
Well, if you want to look at it, for example, compare it to the other big shooter that came out at about the same time, which was the kind of the reboot of Medal of Honor, where they tried to make a modern warfare version of
but again,
Medal of Honor game.
I understand that they're trying to get in on what Modern Warfare 2 managed, and they brought two people into the fray to do exactly what they thought it was necessary to get the job done. Then the beginning and ending of the problem is, though, I don't think that they had people who had the love, They were trying to replicate what another company was able to manage. I don't know. It's just, when it's a B2 offering, I just don't think it was going to work that way. And I knew it was going to work, but people played it and enjoyed it. The single player and the multiplayer are as different as yin and yang. They're just completely different.
And that's what I see as the big difference between Myst 3 and Myst 4. Myst 3 was made by the same team that made the excellent Journeyman Project games, which were both fantastic adventure games. Or I don't know, there's a third one now.
I thought that 4 and 3 were made by the same team, or like largely the same team.
They were both commissioned by Ubisoft, but no, Presso Studios did 3, and 4 was I want to say it was Montreal.
Well, yeah. They took Ubisoft Montreal and then had a subgroup that they dubbed Team Revelation. And I guess they sort of handpicked them to design the game.
And their favorite Myst game was Riven. So, I thought, we had some definite potential there.
Well, it's like 4 is like one of my favorites of this series, just because I feel like I always felt there was something a little flat about 3, even though the puzzles are designed really brilliantly, except for Adana. I cannot stand Adana. I cannot stand Adana.
I feel that formulaically, Myst 3 hugged the original Myst game, where you have a hub world, and then you have, 4 set ages to come visit, and each of them kind of are linear in that sense, just like the original Myst game, where you go into a age, you kind of finish all the puzzles there, you go back out to the hub world, you go to the next one.
In the same vein, BioShock 2 was very formulaically just the same thing as BioShock again. I mean, there was some gameplay innovation, some changes, whatever, but it was still a fun outing. And that's the same thing I would say for, Myst 3. Yes, the formula is still kind of, Myst. And in the same way, Myst 5 End of Ages is formulaically just another Myst, But, is it fun is the short and the long of it.
Well, I mean, the thing that was interesting about 4, and actually the thing that's really interesting about 4 is that 4 starts out seeming like it's going to be, sort of very formulaic where, you stay on Tamana the whole time. And then halfway through it says, nope, we're going in a different direction. And then it turns out that, what you're doing is actually for something completely different. And I thought that was interesting, is that they're trying to be a little bit more open-ended. And I thought that felt nice.
I thought it was a really fun nod when there's a point in Myst 4 where you actually visit the part of Tamana where you were in Myst 3.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. Oh my god, this is so cool. I was so happy about that.
Yeah, that's one of those things that we have a lot of trouble with in succeeding games. Like, when I hit Mass Effect 2, and we're on the Mass Effect, the original, I forget the name of the ship, Normandy, on the original Normandy, and it's like, it's like I never left. The game just continued. The world's been here waiting for me all this time. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of cool, because it's that connection, even if the same studio develops the game, as an example, Fear 1 and Fear 2, the feel between the two is night and day different. So...
I mean, and what was really nice to that, I love when you use the imager, I forget what it is, the shell thing.
The crystal.
In that area, you get the FMVs from Myst 3, which, I was like, nice touch, guys.
Yeah. So moving on, we have the future of PC gaming as predicted by Ken Levine, or Levine, Ken Levine.
Yeah.
So he thinks that PC gaming isn't going away ever.
Well, first of all, why don't you tell us who Ken Levine is?
What, you don't know?
Well, I may know, but our listeners out there in audio land may not know.
If you know what BioShock is, then in keeping with that theme, you know who Levine is. He's the creative force behind BioShock and behind the upcoming BioShock Infinite. So,
is it Infinite or Infinity?
It's Infinite.
Okay.
It's I guess it would kind of make more sense to be Infinity, but I don't know. It's an interesting thing that it's set in a time in history when we really just had bolt-action rifles, whereas BioShock we had Tommy guns and what have you.
Yeah. It seems to me like the idea with BioShock Infinite, I mean, as much as people try to convince me otherwise, and this is I'm sort of ranting here, but I seem to get the sense that it's like a game that is same concept but different universe.
Yeah,
sort of.
That's why it's called BioShock. Yeah, but in any case, so he talks about how there's consoles and PCs, and because the consoles kind of have this Me Too thing. I'm sure you've noticed, like the Kinect, the PlayStation Move. God. Being answers to the Wii how many years later. I think in both cases, I think they both have interesting takes on the same formula, but this has happened everywhere. No one had done the aim down the sight shooting perspective until Infinity Ward did it in Call of Duty, and then now everyone pretty much does it. So these things have ways of showing up everywhere in the industry. His theory is that a lot of the innovation is going to continue to happen on PCs, and development always happens on PCs anyway. So, I don't know, I've seen behind-the-scenes videos of companies like Naughty Dog, who does Uncharted, and Uncharted 2, and soon Uncharted 3, where you see their office, and they've got these PlayStation controllers plugged into PCs, not into PlayStations, so... the creation happens on these type of things, and so it stands to reason that gaming also would be a natural thing here.
Well, the point that I think the pertinent point that Ken Levine makes is that because everything is being developed on a PC in the first place, and then later it's being translated into something that's playable on a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360, there's a lot more middlemen involved in the process of making a console game, and that can kind of halt production of things and prevent things from getting done. Whereas on the PC, you developed it for a PC, and pretty much the same product that the testers and the people developing the game are playing is what's going to go in the box, or in this case, on the Steam or something. That, and there's not a lot of change in how it plays. Plus, patches have always been really easy. to kind of implement.
Which is interesting. It seems like everything that goes online suddenly needs patches.
Right, but Microsoft, all the patches have to be kind of run through Microsoft. They have to okay that every patch that's made, which is part of the problems that Valve has been having with their version of Team Fortress 2 on the Xbox 360s, to the point where they've pretty much given up on supporting that version, because
Microsoft.
It's a completely different version of the game than what's currently on Steam right now, because they hated getting Microsoft's approval for every single patch they do, and they do lots of patches for a game like Team Fortress 2 or Left 4 Dead 2.
Well, another thing that he points out is some of the strongest developers for consoles were PC developers first. But the thing I wonder is how long is that going to last? And, what we always notice is that when consoles come out, there's this small leap ahead or small leap to parity where the graphics of the consoles look much better than PC, depending on how you run your graphics, of course. But gradually the console slips back and the PCs get these ports of these games. But the problem is we've reached a point where most of the games I'm looking forward to are available also on consoles. But my theory is if it's on PC, that's where I'm getting it, because if it's a shooter, I need the mouse.
You have this cycle. It seems to have all sort of started with the Wii, but I'm sure there have been other examples through gaming history of where, and yes, I'm going to use the word gimmick because I can't really find another way of describing it. Where one game developer, or studio, whatever, comes up with this gimmick and says, oh, look, we're going to have this new motion control feature that we're going to have inside our, inside our console now. And then what I dislike is how, both Microsoft have done it. We're sort of took a, oh, well, we don't need that. We're going to stick to our guns. And then 5 years later proceed to try to imitate them. At which point Nintendo was already moved on. They're going with 3D. So.
Yeah. Well, my main reason that I always stick with the PC is because of things like mods.
Yeah.
One of the best games of the PC last year, and still out because all the DLC, is Borderlands. Yeah. And Borderlands doesn't have an in-game configuration for VSync, but it's in the INI, so I can actually change it. But if you're like that on the console, you're stuck because they don't give you access to the INI in the console. Mm-hmm.
Nope.
And sometimes there's games that I get that I'm having a good time, but I feel like the game's mechanic is holding me back, and so I can just cheat. I'm available to do that in the PC. And I don't mean multiplayer games like Modern Warfare 2. I mean single-player games I've been playing Just Cause 2 again on the PC, and I figured out how to get it to run smoothly. But since I've already done the whole game on the console, I did it the legitimate way. I just feel like having fun and just throwing back. So I throw on a trainer, and I can't die, and then I just go to town mowing down everybody.
Which is kind of funny. There was a big kind of a debacle over when Fallout 3 came out on the PC, because it was a game for Windows Live game, which means it still had linked with your Xbox achievements. Mm-hmm. But you could just use the command console to unlock all the achievements in the PC version of the game. And it kind of started this big fuss with the community where people were really upset and everything, but Bethesda's attitude towards the whole thing was like, yeah, there's lots of things you can do with that command console. They were still kind of approaching it with a PC mindset.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that, though.
That's what command consoles are for.
Yeah, that's why you get it on PC, and if you don't like it, get it on console and stop complaining. So, yeah, that's the one thing on a small aside that I always have problems with people on multiplayer games is people complaining about the way other people play. Mm-hmm. There's twofold. First off, you get the people who, I am so awesome, you suck, and they keep saying it again and again, and you suck, or, you are pwned, or whatever. I don't have the kind of time that you put into this game. I just don't. I have other things in my life. So the gaming is something I do like people would watch TV. I just play games for relaxation and entertainment. And this is not a lifestyle. This is not the only game I play. So if I'm not the most awesome at it, well, but then you get these people who's noobs, why are you doing it this way? Why are you doing it that way? It's it's legal. They're not cheating. I have no complaints, So if you're in a match where you're unhappy and people aren't doing it the way you want, leave the match for another one that might suit you better, Just like when we were playing Black Ops, there was a server where the guy says you have to always walk crouched and you can only run if you're under fire. So he wanted it to be kind of a strategic kind of shooter. And that's fine, but I didn't like that, so I left that server, I didn't make a fuss, I didn't complain, I didn't use profanity, I just, okay, your goals and my goals don't match, I'm going somewhere else. So, that's just one of those things that it's kind of fun how people think that if you don't do it the right way, which is my way, because my way is the right way, of course, then you're not doing it. And why does it matter like that? Why can't it just be you do it the way you do it, where you do it, and everyone else who wants to do it whatever they want to do it, they can do it where they do it without any issues.
Well, at the same time, you don't want somebody to clearly be cheating. I was playing Battlefield Bad Company 2 online, and there was this guy who was picking everybody off with this pistol from across the map through, 10 different walls. So it was very obvious that, since every shot he was making was a headshot, even though it would be impossible for him to be making these shots, that he was using a cheating mod.
I've been playing Modern Warfare 2 for a long time, and I told my friend Brent about it. Like, sometimes I spend so much time diagnosing the cheating. He's like, it's Call of Duty. Call of Duty and cheating go together like peanut butter and jelly. He's like, it's going to happen. So, and it's kind of funny because you'll see the kill cam and you watch them like in the kill cam space of time. When you die, you see 4 other people die with perfect headshots. You're like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, just one of the one of the things interesting about PC is, that no matter what kind of weird sort of gimmick or innovations that consoles will try, PC will always be a constant. And I feel like a lot of the innovation in like gameplay, and less in trying to pander to a market, more naturally trying to make gameplay, is going to mostly happen in PCs, and then it'll sort of stem outwards from there. That's mostly what my experience that I've seen.
Also, when you have a PC, if you got a properly built system, you can play games from way back when. You can have a DOS box. You can the Windows Server, which still works to this day, was actually made for the days of Windows 98.
Let's move on to our next point, which is actually semi-related, but kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, which is this accusation that Valve and Steam are killing the PC gaming market.
See, right there, I just want to say they are, in my opinion, revitalizing it.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, because as so much so, and Jeff has tried to refute me, but I'm still seeing it happen. It looks like the sales that Valve keeps having, that keeps people keep opening Steam every day to see if another sale is on, are being replicated in games from Windows Live, in the Xbox console, in the Sony PlayStation Store. They're seeing that this is a positive movement. So it may actually be the same kind of thing, like shooters were born on the PC and trickled down the consoles. These sales are born on the PC and trickling down the consoles. So as a gaming industry as a whole, we are having a positive effect on them.
Yeah. And I just want to point out, I mean, let's talk about piracy a bit. I think 3 of the things that are most affected by piracy are usually the big 3 are music, movies, and games that are the things that people usually pirate. And music and movie pirating became a big issue, and most people seem to be in agreement now that iTunes basically sort of solved that problem a bit by really what they did is making it accessible. It's really
and
easy
affordable.
To pick up
it's like
accessible.
$1 a song is not a unreasonable price for anyone to ask. In fact, I remember reading about 3 or 4 years ago that there was a lot of people, recording studios were pressuring Apple to raise the prices of the song.
Well, unfortunately, they have.
Oh, yeah, a little bit, but I mean, they've held off for doing that for a long time.
But on the flip side, the higher price comes with a better quality.
Hike it up to $2 or more, for songs. But they said no. If you do that, you're just going to have people stealing your songs again.
But I like the volume discount idea, where if you want the whole album, there's 27 tracks, but you only pay $10, then you're getting a steal on the tracks. Mm-hmm. In which case, what they were trying to do is recoup the cost of say there's an album with 1 or 2 singles on there. They wanted you to pay for the singles enough money that made the people purchasing the album not be a loss. And I don't like that idea, because gouging is not a good idea in my opinion. But on that place, I think that the video is still not quite coming into its own, because of people who have digital videos on their computers in iTunes The only way they can get to their TV is with an Apple TV, and so it's kind of lock-in and expensive. You can't use a Roku box, even though it's cheaper and could do it if the content wasn't protected. But then you can maybe get the stuff from iTunes, but then you've got the Zune store, and it's like everyone wants to lock you into their environment. And I understand the reason why, but, it's not going to progress with that perspective. But with the audio, I'm on the same page with you. With the video, I think we're still kind of coming into our own.
But, I mean, the point that I'm making is, what you do is it's not so much that people, as it turns out, that people don't want to pay. I mean, that's part of it. But if you make it accessible enough, if you make it accessible and you make, really not too much out of, somebody's reach, then you're going to solve a bunch of problems. And that's what Steam, I think, does really well by making it super easy. There's no disk or anything. You just sort of, as long as you have a decent enough connection, you just do your download, install it. It takes all of 5 seconds to make a game purchase. And these, sales that they have, every day, there's always something that's being discounted. And,
I have a friend who's a big PC gamer that's been he had a PlayStation 3 for a while. I guess he beat the snot out of it and stopped working, which is fun. But now he's back to PC gaming. I'm trying to tell him there is no better place to get games than Steam. And he's like, but I have to have the program open every time I go in there. I'm like, dude, your computer is never not online. So if you're never offline, having Steam open is not a problem. And you have a quad core processor, so Steam is not going to pull resources that are essential for the game. So it's some people do still have the mental block with they have to have a disc. Bert, or one of the people on our staff, is he doesn't want a digital only purchase. He wants an actual disc. He wants a physical copy.
Well, because there's the sense that you're only renting something from a vendor. The feeling that you don't have anything physical, you don't have the control over your own product.
And EA screwed that up too because they put in activation limits on things, not trusting in Valve's DRM. However, on the flip side, I don't think they did that with Mass Effect 2. So they're learning.
Yeah. So there's a number of brick and mortar stores that kind of started a big kerfluffle over the fact that they're selling Steam games or box games that require Steam, and
once people learn about Steam, that they forget about the store. It's so stupid that they reach a point where they think that we open this door to this other venue and there's no way to pull you back. It's well, obviously you need to work on your sales model then, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for GameStop to make their own version of Steam or, some of these other
They do have
companies.
digital downloads, I believe, digital purchases.
They do, but it's really shoddy and they don't offer the discounts that Steam does. Like I said, if you can get a game for 75% or 50% off, and, just by
the only competitor to Steam, in my opinion, is Good Old Games. It's the only one.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job. But they don't have really the selection that...
Well, of course, it's good old games. So it's old games. There's that. Mm-hmm. But first off, there's no DRM, which
and
Steam...
it's another fine source to collect cyan games.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Steam has DRM, which means the client has to be open. But to me, that's not a problem because the client adds a lot to the experience. You have the overlay. You want to chat while you're in game. Hey, I need to find out how to do this. So I'll just bring up the browser in game and look for it without having to actually tab out of the game. So there's that.
Love that.
So to me, I think Steam brings so much more to the table, including the fact that you don't need a disc in the drive to play the game.
Yeah.
So, but the problem I have with things like Direct2Drive, and I'm not sure if GameStop does this, but I know that the EA Game Store online does this. There's only 2 activations on the game you buy. So if you're any kind of a PC gamer worth your salt, you know that reinstalling your PC is part of your lifestyle. It happens at least once a year. And so that means that when you buy a game, you've got 2 years and then it's gone. You can't activate it a third time. I can just back up the Steam folder, restore the Steam folder, reinstall DirectX, all the stuff you have to do at the beginning of the running of the game, and I'm back in business. If Steam is killing the PC retail gaming market, I say so be it. I can't imagine buying a music CD these days. I think similarly there's going to come a point where we can't imagine buying games on disc.
Well, one thing I will admit, Steam certainly does have a really strong grip on that market. They don't really have any competitors that are of any threat to them at this point.
Well, they have a couple that are trying, Impulse and Games for Windows Live.
Even Google is trying to get in on that.
Well, why should they? I mean, Steam did it right. They did it first and they did it right, so they should get
Well, they didn't do it right immediately, first off. Steam had some teething pains. Everyone does. But, with Games for Windows Live trying to compete, they're just not managing it, so... And Microsoft should know what they're doing. They've got Xbox Live.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to see a sale that's more than 10% off on something.
It's Microsoft.
Yeah, I love the whole Microsoft volume discount. If you buy more than one copy of Windows or whatever, you get 10% off of the following one. When Windows costs $200, it really doesn't make a big difference.
Wow, I get to save $10? Thank you very much.
Oh, boy. Enthusiasm.
Yeah, the volume discount on Windows is TechNet. But in any case.
Anyway, so speaking of, iTunes, guess what, guys? Cyan has finished their version of iRiven for the iPod Touch and the iPhone and I believe also the iPad, and they've submitted it to Apple for approval.
Wouldn't it be funny if Apple rejected it?
Yeah.
Too big, did not read.
I can't imagine, first off, how would they approve it? I mean, someone would have to play through it, right? So we're essentially waiting for that poor Apple staffer to finish the game.
Well, hopefully somebody's already
Someone send him a walkthrough quick.
I'm just shocked. I mean, I can see Mist working on the iPhone, but Riven is it's a tricky thing for even,
Even with compression, that's going to be a huge app.
I don't even care if it's compressed. It's 640 by 480, so it'll fit on the screen fine. My problem is I'm sick of bending over backwards to try to get Riven running and failing miserably. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it for the iPhone and be happy they can play it on a system that is just going to run it properly. That's my big deal. Because PC, you just can't.
I thought it was working okay with Windows 7.
We passed the point where you want to scale your screen down to 640 by 480. I don't know how long ago. I can't do it anymore. It just, if I have if my chat program is open but in the system tray, and I come back and the window is in the middle and it's tiny, I can't have that.
When I run it in XP, which, by the way, it does run in XP, it just doesn't run very well, it full screens it. Which is interesting, because people say that in Windows 7 or whatever, it gives you this little tiny window, but no, I get full screen. I don't...
Well, I don't know.
We were talking about the Steam version, yeah?
I've done Good Old Games and Steam. They both have similar issues with me, which
That's weird.
I want to play it, but I can't sit through it. The one in Windows 7, Jeff says his ran fine, but mine was crashing randomly. Not crashing, it was lockup. I have to close the application.
Interesting.
And it's not.
Yeah, I didn't have any issues, except for the fact that, the GOG version, there are missing animations for no apparent reason, and I don't understand that.
I didn't have any missing animations in GOG. I still think that's something specific to you or your machine.
I mean, because it was both. It was both the GOG and the.
I blame the QuickTime because.
And then also, I mean.
As an example, iTunes lately. I thought that when I reinstalled Windows, I would stop having problems.
Oh.
But iTunes. If I play a video and I pause it, and then I go back to iTunes will not respond, and then I go bring up Task Manager, it says not responding, even though the program is clearly up and still, it hasn't done what we call the gray screen of murder, where the screen actually turns gray and stops working. So then I have to force it to close. And this is a clean install. No other version of iTunes has been on here, so this is just the very latest version. And then I get to an Apple update, and there's a QuickTime update, and then now it seems to be working okay.
See, I don't even bother with iTunes for that reason. I mean, I have a pretty decent computer, and I still just don't even want to try letting that run.
See, here's the thing.
Experience I've had on other PCs.
Getting down a little bit of an iTunes rat hole. I use iTunes to organize a large amount of videos, subscribe to and maintain my podcast collection, and therefore I can know where I left off. I can actually use iTunes with my iPhone to actually maintain some level of progress. And in addition, I also have a separation of videos to TV shows. Nothing else I know can handle that.
Yeah, I mean, but that works on Mac, okay. I mean, because it more or less just is secondary to the actual OS itself. But on Windows, it's like trying to push a donkey, and it's just sort of sitting there going, wow, just not moving, At least that's my experience with it. It just does not want to run.
Yeah, my beef with iTunes is pretty much the same as Janath's. I use mine for the same reasons, just to organize my massive music collection and separate my movies and my TV shows. But it is by far the beefiest non-gaming program I've ever run on any system ever. I don't know why that thing is as big as it is and why the install is, hundreds of megabytes. This doesn't make any sense for something that's, essentially a music player.
I can tell you why right away. iTunes is not a native Windows program. iTunes runs very well in Mac, but even in the Mac, when you fire up iTunes, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 before it actually is up. So it isn't like you click and boom, here's iTunes. So it's still kind of chunky, but on the Mac. And the Windows version, as far as I know, is not actually a native Windows spin. So that's where the problem comes from. As an example, the Zune software is essentially most of the functionality that iTunes has, and that program launches like a champ. But for the life of me, I can't make that program work for me. There's just this one. I'm the king of having specific things that cause me to stick with certain things, and iTunes has this feature that I need. I don't trust iTunes to organize my library. I never will. I will never want it to put stuff in folders and group it into the places it wants to. I will never ever use that because I cannot get with this whole theory of just drop it all in one place and use search. Never going to do that because I can't trust that the search is going to find everything, and more often than not, I'm right. It's not actually kept finding something I'm looking for whatever reason. So in any case, on the left-hand side of iTunes, there's the playlist group, this area. And what I do is I have my music already organized into folders by genre and or album. Okay, so I actually just drag the folder I need over there to the playlist, drop it. It creates a playlist, same name as the folder, with the contents of the folder in the playlist. That way, if you get a bunch of junk, which is not a problem as much anymore as it was before, when you go into iTunes, anything you ever play that ever pops up in iTunes is now immutably added to your library. But whenever I used to want to just do a purge of the library, just delete all the playlists, delete all the music in the library, and gradually, one by one, put it all back. And I don't have to do a lot of work because what I do is I configure the main music listing to be exactly the way I want, and then whenever I drag all those things to the playlists are formatted the same way. So it seems like a long workaround, but these people who have 30,000 songs in there and they have no way of easily getting to it without using search, to me it seems like an extra step you don't need to have to search for what you want. What you want a compilation of something. Say you want game soundtracks, whatever. So I don't know. That's me. And I'm comfortable with that being me being that kind of nerd.
No.
Because I don't know anything else that gives me that kind of flexibility. Now, what I really want, if I could ask for one feature that all the companies would do, it would be just this one thing. If you ever synced pictures to an iPod or an iPod Touch using iTunes, it takes the folders that are in your pictures folder and creates playlists for each of those folders automatically. Why the hell can't the audio part of it do that? It's the same. I have the same problem with what is the Mac iPicture application? Is it iPhoto?
I think it's iPhoto.
Yeah, same problem there. It's why is iTunes able to sync these folders in exactly the format I want without me having to do anything extra? Yet the music stuff can't do that. I think it's because we've had too many years of Microsoft and Apple already organizing the folders the way they want for so long that it just wouldn't work that way. So anyway, where are we at?
Let's move on. Our next bullet point that we have listed here for discussion today is the new open source Kinect drivers that were released.
Okay, here's a little bit of story if you're not aware. Yeah. The Kinect was hacked to work on the PC, and
Oh, but it goes even further back than that, doesn't it, Janathas?
Well,
there was the contest where somebody said I will pay what was it 1,000, 10,000 something dollars to the first person who can successfully hack the Kinect, right?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't hear about that.
I can't remember the story exactly, but it's really funny because basically people were competing for a week or two to figure out who could hack it first, and then somebody did, and then I guess they shared all their information, and now we've got these open source Kinect drivers.
There was a lot of control schemes over the years for PCs that were kind of crazy and off the wall and stuff, and some games might integrate them, some might not. I've been a lot of fads. Well, I would count PhysX among them, but in any case. But the fact that there's open source Kinect drivers and now you can legitimately buy the Kinect package and plug it into your PC is actually kind of cool. But then again, I think I'm sitting here in a chair in front of my monitor. The Kinect is really not good for my lifestyle of PC usage.
Yeah, people jokingly call it furniture mover the game. I've seen a surprising number of Kinect games already traded into GameStops and whatnot. for being as new as it is, I've seen a bunch of Connectimals and Connect Adventures, and
I think it's disappointing people, but it's the strongest selling of the new two. Between it and Sony, it's selling much better than the Sony one is.
I thought it was going to do well. I thought it would sell like maybe 1 million, this holiday season, but it's already past, 4 million?
So long as they keep it, from trying to be a replacement for the controller for like the games that I would say the hardcore gamers tend to play, and accept that the game market is actually segmented into, people who play Xbox aren't not all playing Call of Duty, that same kind of thing. So long as they accept that reality and make the Kinect games Kinect specific, I don't think it'll be a big deal.
Yeah, it's a gimmick that they're using to make a lot of money this holiday season, and it's another opportunity for Microsoft to really trounce Sony. Because the PlayStation Move is not doing as well.
Yeah, the PlayStation Move, if it didn't have like the little ball at the top of the little thing, that's the only problem I have with it. Like, couldn't it have been like a vertical rectangle or something? Did it have to be a cute little ball?
One of the bigger issues I have with that is that I remember when the Wii first came out, and there was an interview with, I think, one of the Sony execs, and they said, they basically compared the Wii mode, the system, to like having a popsicle. And they said gamers don't want to have, no, lollipop is the term used. They said, gamers don't want to have a lollipop. And yet there they go, and they make something that looks like a freaking lollipop.
And I'm sure it has to do with, the tracking on the camera or whatever, but either case.
Still though.
I still stick to the idea that Move is sort of a casual thing that that the consoles, these two consoles, didn't really need. But of the two, the one that I find the more interesting is Kinect. So,
Kinect has potential that is, quite obviously not being used yet. But I think the most interesting thing about this issue in general is the fact that
one thing that Sony is doing is very Apple-y lock in. Can you plug a Sony 6-axis that come with the PlayStation 3 to a PC and use it? No. Can you plug an Xbox 360 controller into the PC and use it? Yes. Can you plug the Kinect into the PC and use it? Yes. So I think this is one of those cases where, the Kinect not only has more potential, in my opinion, because of how it opens things up to be controller-free, but also it is accessible to more than just this one restrictive platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, even from a marketing perspective, if you went on Oprah and you showed the PlayStation Move to people would just say, well, we've already seen the Wii. The Wii does that. People won't get it. But you show the Kinect, the fact that there's no controllers, that's a much more, entertaining thing to kind of really impress parents who are going to buy, their kids stocking stuffers and whatnot.
Yeah.
So what is your point, Morris?
Yeah, the thing I was going to say is I feel like we definitely, it's funny how history repeats itself, because, we saw this in, a very miniature version back when, the Wii first came out, and, a lot of gamers are saying, Nintendo is sort of abandoning us, and they're sort of trying, they're doing this gimmicky crap, and, we're not really interested. I wish they would actually take their user base seriously instead of just assuming that everybody's, just, buying every, Alvin and the Chipmunks game that is coming off the shelf, and then it looked for a bit like, Sony and Microsoft were going to sort of take that, the higher path on this one, and then they just copied them. And it's just, guys, did you pay attention when Nintendo tried to do that? It didn't really work.
They're following the money train.
Yeah, that's
Nintendo has been doing very well, financially.
Yeah, that's the thing is, money always talks.
Yeah, that is the issue, and that's actually what I remember. Nintendo had said this at E3. They're like, people criticize us for, not, being very successful with the gamers, but look at our numbers. They say otherwise. And I'm like, God damn it, you guys.
But, the one thing that we really have noticed is that although the Wii has had unprecedented success with the consoles, the Wii games are showing that the consoles have a limited appeal to gamers. And it appears lately that they've hit saturation.
No, seriously. No, they hit saturation day one, my friend. The only good games for the Wii are the first
No.
games.
I mean saturation as in the sales have finally started to trend downwards.
Okay, fair. I'm just talking about, shovelware.
Yeah.
Well,
on a flip note that's kind of related to the Nintendo thing you're talking about, I love that Kotaku always has these photoshopped images of, what's the guy behind Nintendo? I forget his name.
Oh, Reggie Fills something.
No.
Oh, Miyamoto?
Yeah, Miyamoto.
Oh.
They have pictures of him smiling and holding various objects, and it's always like, it prints money. It prints money too. So anyway, moving forward here, did either of you watch the Spike Video Game Awards?
I did not watch it, but I followed it relatively closely.
Yeah. All I cared about is like there was these trailers that were being held back to come out for the Video Game Awards, and as far as I'm concerned, that's all the show's purpose is.
Yeah.
I saw on Kotaku what the awards were, and it seemed very fickle to me. Like they almost just gave awards to say, yep, see, there was some awards there. It was called an award show, so we had to give some awards. And back to those trailers we released.
What a lot of people are saying is that it seems to be an award show in name only, where the focus really isn't on the awards, and that they really ought to cut the BS and sort of just keep it to what the point is, which is to make money and to hype games, and not actually for awards. What's interesting? Actually, no. Before I go into what's interesting, let's go down the list of.
No, I want to talk about Neil Patrick Harris first.
Fine, okay. I love Neil Patrick Harris. Which is interesting because a lot of people are hyped. Neil Patrick Harris, funny man, he's going to be there, and everybody.
Doogie Howser, yay!
Doogie Howser, Dr.
On the flip side, a lot of people like him, think he's cool and everything.
Oh yeah, he's wonderful. I love him.
And I agree. But has it escaped everyone's attention that he's gay?
Yeah.
No, I knew about that.
So everyone has seen past that, and which I find very encouraging. I find that really encouraging.
What I think is part of the reason is that some people may know him from How I Met Your Mother, and if you know How I Met Your Mother, you know that it's ironic because he plays a total womanizer on that show. So
yeah,
you have sort of that Neil Patrick Harrisian character where people don't even realize it. They say, he's this womanizer guy is a funny man, So that could be part of that.
Well, he didn't hit my radar until first was the Doogie Howser, of course. He was in that movie with Whoopi Goldberg, which I can't remember the name, but which I thought was good. And then years later, the only time he hit my radar was when he was on Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
I knew you were going to say that too.
That was when he hit my radar next.
Waiting for it. If he's going to say Harold and Kumar.
I mean, because he plays, for people who don't understand what the reference is, he plays this sort of idealized version of himself, this actor named Neil Patrick Harris, and in this movie, this idealized version of himself is this absolute jerk. So
well, he also did what I consider one of the second funniest Old Spice commercials.
Yes. Behind the obvious one, yes.
I used to play a doctor for Pretend.
I do that.
Okay, so his presence wasn't really felt in.
Yeah, he wasn't really doing. He was sort of just there to talk. He wasn't really that interesting.
He was reading cards.
Yeah, I wonder if they had him around because he has a really good presence for like the tongue-in-cheek straight man commercial routine that he does. The things where he says things in a straight man way that could be considered passable, except then you realize that things are not actually something you should be saying in that case. Like, obviously they have me getting off an airplane here and making it look like I live a luxuriously rich lifestyle. And, so he just rattles that off and it's subtly dry humor. But, so you'd expect that when he's in VGAs, he'd be doing a lot of that. And I guess I heard that he didn't so much, which is a shame. But on to the games.
So, one of the first things, and I know, Janathus, you are pumped about this, Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception.
I am and I'm not. Because I feel like Uncharted 2 was so good that it's going to be hard for them to really hit that mark again or go higher. And it looks like they're putting him in the desert, which has the potential to be boring environments. I hope they do it right, but
we'll see.
I've seen many fan franchises in the gaming world falter after the second one. In the movie theaters too. So it's not unprecedented that they might not nail it on the third try, but I hope so.
Right. And then, of course, some of the other most talked about recently, there's been a lot of buzz, is the announce of Elder Scrolls 5.
Oh, I've been chomping at the bit for news on this thing.
Finally, they're doing away with that terrible engine that they based Elder Scrolls 4 and Fallout 3 around, because, because that engine, very good at environments, but you go up to people's faces and, dear God, ugh.
Well, the one thing about Elder Scrolls 4, though, was that the worlds, you could crank it up to before Crysis came out, Elder Scrolls 4 was the poster mark for, hurts your PC in the worst way, because you cranked it up and your PC went, no, it would whimper, So
let's hope they don't introduce like a real major star to play a pivotal character and then kill him off almost immediately, like they did in the other two games. Like, I am Patrick Stewart. You must follow this quest line. Blarg, I am dead.
yeah.
Really? Why was
Spoiler alert.
Oh, it happens in the first 5 minutes of the game. I'm spoiling anything.
Yeah.
If you haven't played Elder Scrolls 4 at this point. Launch title for Xbox 360.
Yeah.
He also
It came
says
out like a month after.
in the opening narration, he says he's going to die. So,
Yeah.
I think actually what the problem was not so much the faces as the eyes. It's one of the things that Valve learned with Alex and Half-Life 2, that when people look at you, their eyes converge on you, and you're kind of used to that. And so when you see people where their eyes are both staring straight away from you, it looks like they're looking off into the distance instead of looking at you. I think that's part of where these facial things are a problem. And it's not just, Elder Scrolls that had that issue. But I did like that they had a lot of different environments, but of course, with the massiveness of the world of Oblivion, the musical cues and stuff kind of repeat. I remember when I heard the soundtrack for the first time, that piece, The Wings of Chimera, if that's the way you pronounce it, I was thinking, like, I can't wait to see wherever this place is. And then, like, they kind of just play it sporadically throughout the world.
You could be in the middle of a fight, and then you jump over a fence and you're in someone's farm, and they're playing this epic music, and you're like, what? This is not really relevant.
It's almost like when they play the music in the Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh yeah,
because it's epic and they're pretending to be riding horses, but there's no horses. It's almost kind of like that stuff. So
yeah.
So I'm glad there's news, but there was no gameplay show for a game that's supposed to be out in less than a year, and B, I really want some feel for what this game is, aside from the knowledge that apparently dragons are involved.
Yeah. Well. And then one of the other most talked about games that has had a lot of buzz is Mass Effect 3.
Oh, I wanted you to save that for last, but okay.
Yeah, well, no, these are, the three that I've mentioned, I think, are the three most, the three games that were announced that I think there's the most buzz about, so that's why I think I'd put them first, and then,
there was buzz that Mass Effect 3 was going to be an unrelated game to the Mass Effect series, and we were going to have to wait longer for Mass Effect 3, and I was like, oh, please tell me they planted that, because I really don't want to wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, now there's talk about being a significant multiplayer portion of Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, EA is really, really pushing multiplayer now. I don't know if you've been following it.
They have multiplayer in all of their games, whether it belongs there or not.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. Like two of the franchises that they didn't think really hit their stride was like Mirror's Edge and a couple others. And they made it sound like, the reason it didn't was because of the lack of multiplayer. I'm like, no, I think the reason Mirror's Edge didn't hit its stride is because it's too short. It's a really fun game. I really enjoy it, but it just, if you can play through it in like 3 hours. It's really fast.
The learning
Portal
curve
is also really short, and that caught on quick.
Yeah. Well, that you're right,
Portal
Jeff.
was sold in a compilation with a ton of other valuable products.
Yeah, where like I think the total, if you broke it down, you paid like $5 for Portal.
Yeah.
But with Mirror's Edge, I see a lot of people who put videos on YouTube who don't know how to play it right. And so a part of the fun is like learning how to smooth out all the kinks in the game. And that's what I got a lot of replay through. But EA says like pretty much in a nutshell, the problem was that they didn't have multiplayer. I'm like, no, that wasn't it. That wasn't.
This is why you don't trust your intellectual property with EA.
Yeah.
Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
No, but the interesting thing about Mass Effect is that actually Janathus got me Mass Effect for Christmas. So what I'm going to do, it's interesting. When I went home for break last year, I was playing KOTOR, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which was actually the first sci-fi game that BioWare worked on, and now I'm playing their other sci-fi game this year, so it's interesting how things repeat themselves.
Well, I have this theory on Mass Effect. Mass Effect came out of BioWare's desire to do with Knights of the Old Republic what they couldn't do with a licensed property. Mm-hmm. I think that they tailor. It's one of the things that I still have a theory about, like games and licensing. As an example, the Watchmen game that's actually listed here on the Video Games Live site, The End Is Nigh. It might even be a decent game, but nobody cares because it's licensed from a movie, and almost all movie tie-in games are freaking terrible.
Indeed.
So we're kind of the opinion that, licensed tie-ins have restrictions that games designed to be games don't have. And I think that's what Mass Effect really sings, is it allows them to do what they wanted to do in a game world with a sci-fi setting. And I really have to say, they hit what I consider the best of both worlds. You have the questing of Knights of the Old Republic. You have, semi-force powers in biotics and what have you. You have a living space moving through space, sort of like Star Trek. So I think it's got all the bits and pieces to make a really successful sci-fi game.
Yeah.
And so, in my opinion, Mass Effect 2, in the way of a lot of sequels like Assassin's Creed 2, BioShock 2, almost every sequel I played in the last couple of years has made it so I can't stand playing the first game because the gameplay is so much stepped up in the second game.
Which kind of reminds me of something else I wanted to kind of go on a quick tangent is Dragon Age 2.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Age 2 is going to be to Dragon Age 1 what Mass Effect 2 was to Mass Effect 1, where they're pretty much changing the kind of the gameplay mechanic of how it works and just kind of streamlining the game in such a way that if they do what they did to Mass Effect with Mass Effect 2 to the Dragon Age franchise, it's going to be a magnificent game.
Yeah, and BioWare is if nothing else, a very strong development house. They put out solid games. And the one downside, unfortunately, I have to warn you about, Mars, is that Mass Effect 1 was ported by someone not BioWare. So you're going to have a little bit of chunky butt in the performance, and which will be a little jarring because then you'll get Mass Effect 2 and it'll run so much better and look better too.
I didn't pay money for it. I didn't pay money for it. So
yeah. So, but the one thing that's going to be interesting to see is I guess there's a way to get Shepard killed off in Mass Effect 2, and I've never wanted him to die, so I've never explored that possibility. But there's decisions you make in Mass Effect 1 which have spots in Mass Effect 2 where they show up, where you have made changes in the world and the people you encounter. And so BioWare is saying there's 150 some odd different choices that will ultimately end up in Mass Effect 3. And so I can't wait to see how that plays out. So I have a friend who I bought Mass Effect 2 for, who had Mass Effect 1, and he keeps replaying them to rejigger all his decisions.
Which is really kind of funny because they're coming out with a PlayStation 3 version of Mass Effect 2, but they're not porting Mass Effect 1.
Yeah, but did you hear how they're solving that?
No, I did not.
They're giving you a little action comic to walk through, and you make the decisions in the comic, and then you'll have made the decisions for Mass Effect 2. I'm almost
seems like a interesting way to handle that.
I'm like, can I have that for the PC so I can stop playing Mass Effect 1?
Yeah, seriously.
But I'm not trying to downplay Mass Effect 1. In 2007, Mass Effect 1 was kick-ass. It was awesome. But after you play Mass Effect 2, you'd be like, Mass Effect what? 2? Yeah. Is that what you're talking about? Because that's all I want to hear.
I wonder if I'm going to feel that same way about Dragon Age 1 when Dragon Age 2 comes out. So, the other game on this list that I was kind of a little excited about is, and I know that Janathus wasn't because we were discussing it earlier, was the Forza Motorsports 4. The Forza franchise has been kind of Microsoft's direct competitor to the Gran Turismo franchise that they have on the Sony systems. Gran Turismo 5 just came out, but I thought the funny thing about
amazing, by the way.
Yeah, I think the funny thing about Gran Turismo and Forza is that Forza 1 came out after Gran Turismo 4, and it has since come out with 3 incarnations of that between the time that Gran Turismo 4 and Gran Turismo 5 have come out.
Oh. So you said that earlier, and I was kind of playing WoW, and I didn't get that point. I was like, Jeff said something, and it sounded important, but I'm busy collecting chests.
But I've always liked the Forza series better than the Gran Turismo series, which I used to play those. But the Forza always felt like a little more forgiving in how it handled some of the decisions. Forza 3, for example, has a rewind feature where, if you make one big mistake in a race, rather than just kind of crash and lose the race and have to restart it and go over again, you can actually rewind time a little bit and kind of go back and make sure you don't make that same mistake again. So just kind of, you're just going to redo that race again anyway and not make the same mistake. So it's kind of really forgiving to you that by saving you all that time of having to jump through all the hoops to get to that spot again.
Well, there is one more game on the list that I think is worth mentioning, is the Batman Arkham City.
Ah, yes. I finally got around to playing Arkham Asylum, the first game.
It's really good, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
This is how a Batman game should be.
Well, it's a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of should-be's statements. Like, this is the way a platformer should play. It shouldn't have, like, all these obscure things you have to find that are impossible to find. It should be enjoyable and still fun. And so, like, there is a collection element, but the collection element isn't like, 10 billion things. It's just like, I think it's short. It's only 100 or something.
Well, what I like about it,
but they're easy to do and fun to find. The combat element is easy but still fun,
Right. You feel like you're in control, but you're slightly challenged. Like the Joker's minions and stuff, you outmatch them. You're in control of the situation because you're the bad man.
Yeah.
I had a very similar experience playing the brand new Pac-Man Championship Edition DX on the Xbox 360. I think it's a exclusive to that platform. Mm-hmm. But they changed the way the rules of that game work, where there's these sleeping ghosts on the grid, and as you pass them, they kind of follow you directly. So eventually you can get this big chain of ghosts right behind you, this huge train of 70-plus ghosts following after you. You grab a Peller pellet, and you just eat all of them up in a row, and it's almost therapeutic how that feels. That's one of those
things where they give you something where you can achieve it, and you can achieve it, and then beat its face in the ground. It's like, right. in my opinion,
you don't feel like you losing the game because you get caught in a corner. You feel like you're more in a place where you're pressured to try to beat your high score finally, instead of just struggling against the mechanics of the game. Like, I can't tell you how many times those ghosts have cornered me playing Pac-Man over the years. This time I feel like I have the upper hand and the ghosts should fear me.
The Batman game is sort of like a Splinter Cell merged with the Bourne Identity, merged with, a good action platformer. And the graphics hold up. It runs like butter on any system. Awesome. It's a real good game, and I'm hoping the second outing is just as good, and it looks like they're really dialing it up a notch, and looks like he's going to be taking down people that look like Sam Fisher, which I think is kind of fun. So I think we're trying to get out a pecking order between Sam Fisher and Batman. But on the flip side, the new Sam Fisher game was kind of like a nod towards the Bourne Identity movies, which I guess are now the new spy movie du jour direction everyone's taking in the movie studios, thanks to the Bourne Identity movies, which are nothing like the books. But in any case, so I think Arkham City, the trailer looked promising, but of course we didn't see gameplay, so it's hard to tell. But I'm pretty sure that they're going to nail that out of the park.
So that pretty much wraps up what was covered with the Spike video game.
No, there's one more. They regurgitated a Portal trailer.
Oh, well, I mean, there's a bunch more, but those are the big ones. And since Portal's already been announced, I figured, So that's pretty much everything we wanted to cover this time. So for the Cavern today, this is
Janathus,
Jeff,
and Morris. Happy holidays, everyone. See you next time.
Practically eating the microphone, but yeah.
No one's around.
Tyon.
We need their contact information. We need to be like, guys, what the Morris is confused.
Somebody just blew heavily on their microphone.
It was... He blows on his mic. We must kick him out.
Yeah, again, I'm practically eating my microphone in order to get any sound out.
And I'm underwater, and I hate that. I feel like they've nerfed me hard. Bombs could drop in the house, and she wouldn't know.
Not a seal, a sea lion.
It's a sea bat panther.
You just called me a she by accident. That was kind of hilarious.
I stand by my statement.
Alright.
You've been enlisted for the cause. Join the Janathus revolution.
Let's just get this over and done with.
And now for another original musical piece by our very own Jeff Wise.
sing a song of Bethlehem, of shepherds watching there, and of the news that came to them from angels in the air. The light that shone on Bethlehem fills all the world today, of Jesus' birth and peace on earth. The angels sing always.
Thank you, Jeff, for another wonderful piece. Another note before we tie off the end of the podcast, and that's Janathus just ran in here to let me know that after the end of the talk, that iRiven for the iPhone and iPod Touch came out just after they got done. He reports that it runs very smoothly on his iPhone 4. It looks very good on his Retina display, and he bets strangers who have never seen iRiven might accidentally become mist converts because it just looks that good. And with that, we come to the end of our podcast. All of us here at the Cavern today hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. For the Cavern today, this is Dalton Starbine wishing you happy holidays, and signing off.
Hello, this is Janathus wishing all of our The Cavern Today listeners a joyous holiday season and a bright, shiny new year in 2011.
This is Jeff Wise wishing you a Merry Christmas, or at the very least, a Merry December.
Hello, this is Mowag wishing every one of our listeners the very best of the Christmas season.
Hey everyone, it's Wing wishing you all happy holidays. And if you don't like happy holidays, then stop being such a Scrooge.
Hi, this is Mars wishing all of you happy holidays.
Its glory and dismay of him who hung upon the tree and took our sins away. For he who died on Calvary is risen from the grave, and Christ our Lord by heaven adored is mighty now to save.